Well, as you can see from the markets here recently, all markets worldwide, the red alert was given at the right time. Chinese stock market has been down so much in the last roughly month, 30 days. It is incredible how much it's fallen already. And as I see these numbers, red all across the screen, which, by the way, futures, American futures, European, they're all in the red right now before the market's even open. You know, pre-markets are opened. Or the pre-markets are open. But whenever I see the size of how large, somewhere around, I want to say around 30% or so, the markets, China's markets have fallen recently. That's a big amount. I mean, that's huge. It's a third, man. And all I keep thinking about when I see that, Lindsey Williams, watch China. China's the big one. Watch China. China's the big one. And even he said, you know, I'm still not exactly sure, when my elite friends told me that, what exactly they meant. Watch China. China's the big one. And I'm sitting here seeing all the, reading articles even early this morning about what's happening in China, and all I'm hearing about is how much they were levered on, all these financial products, just like America, of course, and other first world, as we like to say, nations, completely over leveraged. And China did have some rules in place, believe it or not. In America, we don't have any rules. We just, you want to leverage the hell out of something, 100 to 1, go ahead. Gold and silver, 100 to 1, no problem. 200 to 1, go for it. Doesn't matter. Keep going. And China, they have some regulations over there, believe it or not, that made it, not impossible, because they've done it, but made it hard to leverage those kind of numbers. 10 to even 10 times leverage, was pretty unheard of. But they're saying, a lot of their stuff was 1, 2 times, whatever, leverage. However, by doing financial tricks and, parlor tricks and cooking books, they found very clever ways to get around that. They, as in the financial companies. So you see these financial companies we have everywhere in the world, they're all the same thing. And it doesn't matter if you have one in China, India, Middle East, any Asian nation for that matter, America, EU zone, doesn't matter. Kind of like cancer. Doesn't really matter where you have cancer, it's cancer, and it's bad news. And these financial institutions are all bad news. They have always been and always will be bad news, because they're always about how can we make more and more profit. We'll break the laws, but we'll just buy off the politicians who enforce them, or the enforcement agencies such as the CFTC or the Security and Exchange Commission, and we'll just pay a little tiny fine when we do wrong. It'll be a few $100 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but in the scope of things, it's tiny. It's chump change, because we made billions off of doing the financial crime we were doing. And then that person who looked the other way and gave us this little baby fine to pay and never told us we can't play the game anymore, which they do have the power to do. They're not going to go to that extent, because when they retire, and they may be making, $200,000 a year or something around that, that kind of salary working at the Security and Exchange Commission. But when they get hired at one of the big banks, when they leave the Security and Exchange Commission or the CFTC, they're going to be leaving that company with millions in their pocket. And they won't have to do anything. They won't even have to work for it. They already did the work when they were on taxpayers, dime. Basically, soaking it up off of us with their nice high-paid salary. Any of us would consider a very nice salary, but that's not good enough for them. They're looking at the big picture. I want millions later, so I'll work here for a few years, 4, 5, 6 years, and then I'll leave, go work for one of the big banks that I look the other way for, of course, and and we don't even have to speak. We already know the agreement's in place. You will hire me, and you will pay me a very high salary because I screwed over millions of taxpayers in America so that you could rape and pillage and break the law without ever having to stand 1 second in court. We just settled out of court, no admission to guilt, little fine, everything's good. So I'm also thinking, as I'm reading all this, especially about China right now, and the things they're trying to do to stem the outflow and the sell-off of these stocks, which is pretty much you can't. You can put any rule, whatever the hell you want down, it's not going to matter. That market's going down. Just like Europe will, and finally, probably last but not least, will probably be America. Just like Lindsay said, it'll be Europe first, then America. But before it's even Europe, it looks like it's China. So China, Europe, then America. And after reading the Webot report recently, right? They talked about China, and they're gonna go after the financial elite who have tried to hide assets offshore over in America, bought a bunch of real estate, whatever. They're going to go after them and take those assets and say we have the right to do so because in our country we have laws that our citizens have to abide by. And they didn't abide by our laws, and they went over here to buy this ill-gotten gains, buy real estate and other assets with these ill-gotten gains, which are now the property of the state of, the country, state of China. So when I hear that, the Webot report, and I'm already seeing them trying to crack down on people for doing things that actually people should be allowed to even do, such as sell your own stock if you own a company, for God's sakes. You shouldn't have to have that be tied to you as a boat anchor and go down with the ship. I mean, they're already putting stuff in place. So I can already see this Webot hit in the making. All markets are pretty much red. There was only a couple of specific didn't even recognize them, that were up a tiny bit in the green. Everything else was in the red. Not that it really matters just yet, because our club members control the markets. And not just our market, they control all markets. Trust me. The mass sell-off in China is our club members. Have we forgotten that we had $9 trillion in debt in 2008, and within 6 years it was doubled approximately to 18 trillion? Let me ask you a question. Where did that additional $9 trillion go that fast? I mean, where did it go? Did we really need to use it? Where did it go? You didn't get it. I didn't get it. None of us got it. So where is it? Where did it go? If that money came up on the books, not to mention the Federal Reserve's multi-trillion-dollar balance sheet, $2 or $3 trillion balance sheet, that it just increased, again, additional printing, you could say, went somewhere. And we were told the last, 2 years, we're going to be spending $80 billion every month for the last 2 years, which they stopped now, but it was a 2-year period approximately. We're going to buy troubled assets and mortgage-backed security and things. Really? Is that all you bought? Or is that their coffers to play the stock market game across the world? So that when they pull the plug, when you think, most of the Chinese stock market is, most of the Chinese, citizens and whatnot, mostly invested in that. I got news for you. I think the club is mostly invested in that, just like they're mostly invested in our market and mostly invested in all markets across the world. They own everything. So it's no surprise that China's getting it first. And again, as Lindsay said, Europe will come before America. So once Europe starts to go, which, you could argue now, what do you mean starts to go? It's already going. Really starts to go. Markets crashing, that kind of thing. Euro in trouble, oh my God. You hear those news stories. He said once that happens, you will have a very short period of time, which he was told weeks, several weeks, to get your stuff in order if you haven't already by that time, because it'll be coming to America. So, just seeing all this stuff happening, I'm thinking about, interesting that the Webot report, almost a month ago now, 3 weeks ago, talked about some of the stuff, watching, regarding China, what they're going to do to go after these people, keeping in mind, like what I was reading this morning about these over-leveraged markets in China, which aren't supposed to be, because on their books they're not supposed to be that leveraged. So how did that happen? And they're going on to explain, well, this is how it happened. And it wasn't the government that did it. It was, again, the financial institutions finding sneaky ways, hiding things off the books, etc., to make it look like they weren't as leveraged, and they really are. So when all this goes down and China says, hey, we got some people who are about to pay the price because you just caused the whole country a lot of problems, and our own government, because now we got a lot of upset people, so now we have to deal with that and the protesting and possible violence and everything else that goes with it because of you financial fraudsters. We are going to track you down across the face of the earth and make you pay. Back here in China. You can see that coming. Look at what they already told the CEOs of companies. You can't sell your own shares of your company because the stock market's going down too rapidly. You're not allowed to do that. What? So when they finally figure out who was responsible, and believe me, they're figuring out right now. You can already tell they will be going after those people. So it's not too far stretch of imagination to say they'll come to America or any other country and say, by the powers vested in us in China, our citizens know what our laws are, and they broke our laws and got some ill-gotten gains over here. They're now the property of China. They're going to be doing that everywhere. So all I can say is when that happens, if it happens in the near future, hopefully I'll remember, oh, yeah, it was a Webbot report. But I got a sneaky suspicion there's going to be a whole lot more going on in the world that might even be more important than me remembering. Oh, well, yeah, I remember the Webbot said that about the China, they're coming over here to take back assets, ill-gotten gains. Might be a whole lot more I'm focused on at that time. But if I do remember, I will certainly do a video. Take care.